welcome everyone. We're so happy you're here for our panel with some amazing people to talk about their experience with sex education and sexual health and just life and who they are in general. And so we have, we have Linnea with us today, and we have Devin, we have Stephanie here, and Maggie and Aiden are there. And we also have Malik. Malik, maybe say hello.
Oh, hey.
Perfect. Awesome. Great.
Yeah, hi. I'm Linnea. My pronouns are they, them. I'm 24. I'm autistic, and I'm a marketer at a small religious publishing company in Minneapolis.
Hi, my name is Devin. My pronouns are she, her. I am a college student at Christopher Newport University, majoring in comm. I have my own podcast called Real Talk All Things Inclusion, which you both have been on. And I am planning to go to law school.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am 24 years old. I have cerebral palsy and nonverbal learning disorder. I work at my after-school discovery club program in SPPS, and I'm really happy to be here and to just spread my voice.
And I also have a nonverbal learning disability, a very mild one. So.
Oh, I'm Malik. I am 24. My pronouns are he/him. I have autism and ADHD. I am currently a deli clerk at London Barley's. Pretty fun there. And that's all I got to say.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and this is
Aiden.
I'm 29.
I'm 25.
And I'm almost 30 until next year. And the biggest news is that I'm engaged.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And we're not getting married until September. I'm super excited. I graduated from Bethel in 2017.
I went to Rosamond High School and I graduated in 2013.
And now we are living together in Apple Valley, Minnesota. Thank you, Stephanie.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Devin. And it's been great. We love the house so far, and I'm super excited.
We're going to move into thinking about your experience growing up and just your experience with sex education. So thinking about where, if and when you had some of the talks about sex education, about healthy relationships, boundaries, safety, all that great stuff. Maybe it was from school, maybe home, maybe a religious organization, maybe from friends, maybe from the internet.
A lot of my teaching as far as boundaries and sexual health go came from my parents. I did have standard health class at school, but it made me quite uncomfortable with the way that it was taught, just because it was more about identifying the anatomy rather than talking about safe practices when it comes to consent and relationships and all of that. Just seems like we were there to just, we talked about different forms of birth control, but it didn't feel authentic. It just felt like a class that we had to take. And it was only one semester my sophomore year, and so a lot of the space and the way that I grew up had to do with my parents teaching me. And without them, I wouldn't be in this relationship today with Malik. So
Sometimes my parents would talk to me about it, and one of them was like, "Oh, you should wait for a special occasion and not do it now and just wait."
Yeah, kind of through my mom, mostly though through your class, Katie.
Yep.
I didn't take it in high school though. It just working on our boundaries, about all the fun stuff that we do together, and
Most of the experience I've gotten was from, well, the teachings and like boundaries and what not to do was from my mother. I got some from school as well, but it was more like a little like a small subject and just kind of brushed it off at my school. And like most of the more advanced stuff I learned was from YouTube, like how to what consent is. Yeah, I learned some from my mom, school, and YouTube. Let's just say that.
I had the standard health class in school because I was in regular ed. And so I learned from that, and I learned from my parents. My mother was very open with that. Like, she didn't mind if I asked her questions.
Yeah, I guess I remember 3 conversations with my parents. One when I was really, really little about kind of where babies came from. And because I was having a little sister and I was curious about that. And then one when I was maybe 9 or 10 about kind of how my body was changing and developing. And then one when I was maybe 16 about like, when is a good time of life and like what is a good situation in which to have sex. And my sister says she didn't get any of those talks from her parents. So I guess I got lucky. In school, I did not get much at all. I was in St. Paul Public Schools, but my junior high health teacher didn't want to teach sex ed, so she didn't. And she didn't get in trouble for that until after I had already moved on to high school. And then in high school, I didn't take health until my senior year. And there was a short unit on sex. It was mostly about STIs. And that was that. My church that I grew up at, Gloria Dei Lutheran Church in St. Paul, is a really wonderful queer affirming church. And when I was in middle school, they had a retreat for middle schoolers that did sex ed. And that's where I learned much more than I learned in school about boundaries and healthy relationships and gender stereotypes and queer identities and that kind of stuff. But it really was geared toward middle schoolers. And so when I did that in 7th grade, and then I didn't have sex ed in high school until senior year of high school. So in between those 2 events, I had nothing.
I'm just wondering if there's something that you wish you would have learned.
Yeah, I guess there are 2 things. First of all, like as an autistic person and a very literal person, I wish that abuse had been described a little more thoroughly. Because my first relationship was definitely abusive, but since I wasn't getting physically hurt, I thought it's fine. Like it doesn't matter that he's lying to me a lot. It doesn't matter that these other things are happening because it's not abusive because I'm not getting physically hurt. And so just learning more about like, no, there are a lot of different ways abuse can look, would have been really helpful. And then also like I am asexual, and so I don't experience sexual attraction. I don't have much of a sex drive, but I still really like romance and cuddling and kissing. And a lot of people don't know that's a thing. And so I feel like in situations where like the setup has been, oh, someone's going to educate me and tell me things, I've had to kind of turn it around and be like, no, it doesn't work that way for me. And they're like, what do you mean? I've never heard of this. And that stinks. Like, I wish I didn't have to teach people who are supposed to be teaching me about how things work for me.
I just wish basically what she said, that abuse can look all kinds of different ways, because I went through some stuff and I thought, oh, it's not that bad because I'm not getting physically hurt. But it was very abusive. Well, not very abusive, but somewhat abusive. And I just wish like there would have been more inclusive too of disabilities and sex. Like people with disabilities have sex lives too, and it seems like that they've forgotten that.
I wish I was taught to let go of people who didn't care about me. I spent my entire life trying to fix people who were, mean, hurtful. It's like, hey, if I just give you some love and affection, maybe you will be, a little more happy with yourself. Maybe I'll, that didn't help. They hurt me in the process badly. So I wish I learned to avoid talking to people and just sort of leave them alone, let them fix themselves instead of me trying to fix them.
So I just wish that I kind of would have learned how to control my infatuation with boys and stuff, because it just seemed like I was getting myself into heartbreak, even though I haven't been in any relationships before in the league. It just seemed like I was experiencing so many breakups and stuff, and I didn't have other things. I didn't have friends. I didn't really have a job in high school. I didn't have other things to balance my life out, so I would cling onto these boys, and it just was not good for my self-esteem. And I wish I had a little more guidance through that.
That I should have let go of my past with a former ex, and who's just a friend. I did have multiple boyfriends, but that was a long time ago. I wish people would have told me to let go of Bo and that he wasn't good for me.
Just hearing from all of you talking about things that you wish you would have learned, it sounds like it's so much more than just the body parts and human reproduction, how babies are made. It's like learning about feelings and breakups and healthy friendships, healthy relationships, healthy romantic relationships, non-romantic relationships. Just so many missing pieces that we could and should talk about in program. So I guess I want to just shift to now a question thinking about the word sexuality. And so I want you to just think about that word. A lot of the time when people hear that word, they think sexuality equals sex. And we know that's not what it means. There's so much more to it. So I guess I'm just curious what does sexuality, that word, what does sexuality mean to you?
Sexuality to me means like being able to be, I guess, intimate with somebody, like not necessarily sex, but like, cuddles and kisses and all that stuff.
I guess I'm used to hearing about it as a synonym for sexual orientation sometimes, but then other times people use it as a synonym for sexual behavior, and like orientation and behavior don't always line up.
It basically means having that emotional foundation. I mean, if you do not have the feelings of attraction and you do not trust somebody or you do not get along with them well, then I'd say don't get in a relationship in the first place. For me, it's more about the emotional connection.
It means to me that we have connected really well, really great. That we do make love, which is, sex, but we're waiting for that special moment.
Hugging, snuggling.
Well, to me, it's kind of like it is a both physical and mental and spiritual connection. That's how I view it as. If you're not attracted to that person physically, but let's say a person is super attractive, yet their personality is the opposite. It's repulsive. You wouldn't want to be with that person. It's still, you want to just be with someone else. So I view it as physical, mental, and spiritual. Okay. And that's what I look for in a partner. I don't want just one. I want all three to be good.
Well, and hearing from you, so when we think of sexuality, I heard things like it has to do more than just your relationships with other people, that it also has to do with yourself, just who you are as a person, and how you express yourself to the world, and how you feel inside about yourself. And that's all of this is part of sexuality. So thinking back to all of your experiences growing up and when you were learning things, and even now as you continue to learn things, because we know sex education is a lifelong process. It's not just that one high school or middle school or fifth grade experience or class in school, or a conversation with the parent. We're still learning about ourselves always as sexual beings. So I guess I'm just wondering, do you feel that you had someone you could trust when you did have those questions? So when you were like, so when Linnea, for example, talks about being asexual, like having someone to talk to about that, or that you could trust to ask those questions, rather than teaching that person those things. We want to make sure that we have someone we can ask things to and not just teach. So the question, do you feel you had someone you could trust? And maybe if you want to share who that was, or like, was it a peer, was it an adult? Or
Malik and my parents both, not just my mom, but also my dad. I was one of the few people who felt comfortable coming forward to my dad with that stuff, because I thought, he's a human being, he can handle it, stuff like that. So if I have questions, I ask both my parents, and I've asked Malik and stuff. So.
Cool. It is nice to definitely have more than one person, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have 3. My mom, Aiden's mom, and Aiden.
Perfect. How about you, Aiden?
My mom and my stepdad.
I have a couple friends now who I feel like I can talk about that kind of stuff with and like ask questions, but I definitely didn't have that at any time before graduating college.
That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, being asexual helped because I often just wasn't interested, but then sometimes I would be in a situation where I was in a relationship with someone who was interested, and I just had to figure that out on my own.
Stephanie, I'm comfortable talking to that with, because we have that strong connection where I can just be like, "Hey, so blah 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 blah." She's like, "Oh, okay, I'll answer your question. What is it?" And I just ask, and she just answers it.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just have one last question. I mean, I'm curious if, so we're here today, I guess I didn't really even say that, in celebration of this, which a lot of you were a part of this in the making. So this book, Sexuality for All Abilities, that I wrote with Molly. And so this is sort of our book release in a way. This is one of a few panels. So we're just kind of celebrating, excited about this. And this book, the main reader for the book would be special education teachers. And so the thought with that is that it would be teachers, newer teachers, or maybe those that are people that are in like teacher training programs. And so I guess I'm just like, what would you want to say to a new special education teacher, or your special education teacher, or a health teacher, or just like someone that maybe could have taught about healthy relationships, boundaries, sexuality? What would you want? What's something that you can think of that you'd want people to know?
Yeah, just the importance of teaching about consent and being really explicit about what that means. Because that wasn't something I heard of until after I finished high school. And I think that my first relationship might have gone differently if that had been something I'd known about and thought was important.
And do you think there's an age that is it too early to learn about that at a certain time? Or what age do you think would that make most sense?
I mean, I think it's important to start talking about like treating people in a way that feels good to them, and like doing things to someone that they accept and want pretty early, and not making it sexual right away. But I think you can talk to even kids who are quite little about like, no, you can't give someone a high five unless they want a high five too, and you can't take someone's toy if they don't want you to take their toy or whatever. Like you can talk about consent and treating people in a way that feels good to them. I think quite early.
I have two things. One, I would say I agree with Liana completely that it's never too early to talk about consent. It doesn't always have to be sexual, but just like don't hug somebody if they don't want to be hugged, or don't, touch somebody if they don't want to be touched. And secondly, the special ed teacher should know that it's on their kids' mind too. Like, just because they're special ed doesn't necessarily mean they don't have sex drive. And three, emotional abuse is abuse.
So basically, like, don't assume that people with ability differences cannot have relationships. I hate that when people assume that just because somebody has an ability difference, they can't. Like, that's why we don't talk about this stuff often enough. It's because people don't often see feelings as legitimate ever if you have a disability. And I mean, I love Malik, and I will like continue to get my parents to understand that every day, because we really do. I mean, I found it, and I'm not going back now.
Copy a pitch of Stephanie said. I agree with her completely. Me and Stephanie, we have this problem a lot because people think that since we're with disabilities, they think we're incapable of like love and feeling emotions and connections, that kind of stuff, and that really irritates me.
What do you want to tell a special education teacher? What do you wish that they, or what do they need to hear about all of this? What should they be doing?
That it's okay to be safe, to have safe sex, and to always wear, always to be safe, be active, and just be a part of this life.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Aiden?
I think like Maggie said is really true.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you all. So before we close this up, I guess I'm just curious if there's any last thoughts that are in your brain that we really want to make sure we get out there during this time. Any last words that you'd like to share with everyone?
I was just gonna say that me and Aiden both have YouTube channels. Mine is Maggie's Sweet Style Cooking, and Aiden's is Swag Awesome TV. So you guys can both check it out.
Yeah, awesome. You can buy the book, everyone who's listening. The book is available on our website or Amazon or lots of other places. So that's kind of exciting.